Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm talking about dragons today, so I thought it was fitting to start off with a shot of Gojira, the bearded dragon. That's my pet dragon. So I'm going to review the movie, this awesome movie, Reign of Fire, starring Christian Bale, Matthew McConaughey, and Gerard Butler. This movie came out in 2002. The dragons look awesome in this movie. Really cool looking dragons, really nice effects. Jurassic Park 3 came out just a year before this, and the effects are on par with, maybe not quite as good, but on par with Jurassic Park as far as graphics go for the dragons. The dragons look really cool. This movie, it's a post-apocalyptic movie. Basically, the dragons have been responsible for the death of the dinosaurs 65 million years ago, and ever since then they've been dominating over the planet, and they have wiped out humans. There's just a few remaining pockets of humans left that are rebelling against the dragons, trying to defeat them and trying to cultivate food and resource, and just trying to live, basically. This is the first role I've seen in a long time where Christian Bale has an accent, maybe other than Ford vs. Ferrari, which came out last year, because he normally plays Americans in almost all of his movies, but he is Welsh, I'm pretty sure, and he plays a British person, so he's got an accent in this movie, which was interesting to see. And basically it's just a really cool movie. It's not really fantasy, it's more action and post-apocalyptic, but with dragons in it, and it works really well. It's a perfect length for a movie like this, hour 45 minutes, perfect length. And yeah, the action is awesome, stunts are awesome. Any scene with the dragons and, any of the scenes like building up to a dragon coming, really well done, really cool. It's just kind of a perfect treat for us geeks and nerds who love dragons. And yeah, basically another point I will make about it is I think there should be more movies like this more often. I think it can actually take out three birds with one stone, believe it or not. I think us geeks and nerds that love dragons and fantasy and all this kind of stuff will always watch movies like this, and will always gravitate towards, and just go towards movies like this. A movie like this also works perfectly for somebody who is like, I think everybody is like an action movie fan to a certain degree, even if it's not their favorite genre or whatever. Like, there's always a time for an action movie. Time can always be killed with an action movie, basically. And yeah, just people that are looking to, again, just pass the time, just watch a movie for something to do, will check out a movie like this because they'll think it's, the explosions and stuff like that is just worth their time. Like, if they're not into film that much as like an art form, they're just into watching some cool imagery for a little while, and then yeah, they'll also watch these movies. So I think it's a perfect melting pot along the lines of money, along the lines of art, along the lines of just coming up with different ideas for movies and whatnot. I think it's kind of a melting pot to do genres like this that are, like, you could kind of choose any genre you want and just kind of incorporate dragons in it, because there's not a lot of dragon movies, really, to tell you the truth, where dragons are the main thing in the movie, believe it or not. I mean, there's tons of really cool dragons out there in cinema, but a lot of times they're part of these grand, epic stories and films where the dragons are just sort of an added element of intrigue to the overall story. Say, like Lord of the Rings, like Harry Potter, The Hobbit, Game of Thrones, whatever. They go so much more deeper on all these other levels than just the dragons, that they're just, like I said, are just sort of an added element of intrigue. Whereas I think if there was several, like, you could choose any genre that you want, particularly action, fantasy, and sci-fi, I guess, but any genre you want where dragons are the center of what's going on, and it's just kind of not too long, just, again, this movie's a perfect length of time, hour 45 minutes, just around that length of time, of just humans duking it out with dragons, or whatever, any kind of story you want to come up with. I think it's kind of a melting pot for ideas and money, and watchable movies, 100%. And this one's definitely up there. Like, if you were to make a list even of 3 or 4 of the best dragon movies that aren't that aren't part of an existing franchise, this would have to be on there. This would be top on the list. It's missing something if it's not, really, 100%. And like I said, I love those dragons from the other movies. Like, they're the best looking dragons and just the coolest dragons that you can view on screen, basically. But again, if you just are in the mood for dragons, those movies might not be the best ones to go to because there's so much other stuff involved. Whereas Reign of Fire is just a straight up action movie, just a straight up movie with lots of stunts and explosions that have dragons as the centerpiece of the film. So I think that's really cool. I think there needs to be more movies like that, and this is definitely one of the best ones turned in so far. Another thing I was like, okay, so Christian Bale, one of my favorite actors of all time. He was good in this. It was definitely a really good, passable performance in this movie. Gerard Butler also did a good performance for an early Gerard Butler movie. Performance, really good. What I was actually the most surprised about, rewatching this for the second time, because I've seen it and I always knew I liked it, but I haven't seen it in a long time, and watching this the second time, I couldn't believe Matthew McConaughey's performance, how good he did in this movie. I mean, even though his character's kind of stereotypical of what you would see in a genre like this, and yeah, just kind of a stereotypical, silly kind of action movie character, I couldn't believe at how well he performed it, and how dedicated he seemed to like this performance, and actually at how powerful the performance is in a strange kind of way. Whenever he's delivering a line or a monologue, I couldn't believe it, like how, like, for the dialogue he's delivering and the kind of movie it's in, I couldn't believe actually, like, how fucking intense this guy was, and how, like, much you were kind of gripped to the screen whenever this guy was going on about something. It was actually a really good performance by Matthew McConaughey. And I mean, Matthew McConaughey's a great actor. Like, I like a lot of the movies he's in and a lot of the performances, but just for the movie in general, plus the time that it came out with, plus just how you would imagine an actor like Matthew McConaughey would act in a movie like this, it was really surprising to see how sort of powerhouse he was in this movie, actually. Basically, I just really liked the movie. I thought it's a perfect length of time, a perfect action movie. I think that, yeah, like I said, it definitely, these kinds of movies are definitely something that should be sought after to make, as they adhere to lots of different, a heavy amount of, or a large audience, sorry. It was a fumble in words there. They cater to a large audience, is what I'm trying to say. And, yes, the graphics for the dragons were really good. A few of the things I didn't like about the movie were, I mean, I get it, it's a post-apocalyptic movie, so it has a very gray visual aesthetic to it, like everything, I mean, the world burned in this movie. I mean, everything's covered in ash. It's even part of the storyline that the dragons feed on ash as, like, one of the things that they live off. And, so that makes sense, and they did a good job with that, and I didn't hate that visual aesthetic, but I think that if they had just chose, like, one area, or one, or to certain places, or just a few things, a few objects, whatever, that they had of popped with a little bit more color, I think it just would have made the visual experience of this movie all that much more thrilling. But yeah, nonetheless, it's a very fun action movie, and the stunts are awesome. The stunts are really well done. For what it is, it's kind of for what it is, it's the perfect movie, and it definitely holds up for people that are into this kind of thing like me. It definitely is something that holds up, and that is sought after to view, at least in my opinion anyway. I highly recommend checking out this movie, whether you're into this kind of thing or you're just looking to kill some time. Find this movie. It's not a waste of time. It's a perfect action movie and a perfect dragon movie. And and the story of it is interesting too. They basically, I mean, I told you the overview of the story already, but basically the dragons, after killing off the dinosaurs and killing off old man from history, that's why, like, in the story they incorporated like the legends from the knights, and that were true. And they wiped out most of the people then, and they went underground waiting for the world to sort of build up more resources for them. It let people evolve more to so that they had food, so they went into hibernating, and a drilling company actually dug down too deep and ended up cutting into their lair, awakening them and releasing them, and that's where the story goes from there. And yeah, it's just a really good movie for what it is. One thing I didn't like, again, in okay, so Matthew McConaughey, he plays a character called Denton Van Zandt, and like I said, love the performance. His character was a really good character. His character, actually, in my opinion, I'm surprised that character isn't like going down in history as like one of those iconic action characters. Like, his character it reminded me almost in a way of like Quint from Jaws or something. But it can be compared really to any of those classic action characters like Rambo, um, like Terminator, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Predator, whatever. Any of that, any of those like classic action movie characters that we think of, that have like that deliver these lines perfectly, and have like a perfect blend of like comedy and brute seriousness at the same time. And well, not his character isn't very comedic, but he's not like super. I don't know, it's hard to explain. He's not like super serious either, but he's got like, well, he is super serious, but there's definitely a level, like, he's got charisma basically. And yeah, no, the character definitely was a fun character to watch, and a good performance, and should definitely go down as like one of those iconic action movie characters, 100%. And yeah, Christian Bale did a really good job. Like I said, like, it's kind of an early performance of his, but nonetheless, for what it was, he made it believable as he possibly could, and turned in definitely a very good passable role in this movie. Same with Gerard Butler too. And yeah, it's basically a good movie. The suspension of disbelief was too hard to ignore in one scene, the ending scene, which I'm going to spoil it, where Denton Van Zandt gets killed. He makes like a final leap, like a final jump, and that is, the suspension of belief was a little bit too much there. He jumped a little too high and a little too far. And even though I liked the scene and I know what it was going for, they jumped the shark a little bit on that. The suspension of belief was a little too far gone for what for what they had set up in the early amount of movie. Not that the action was like realistic or anything early on, but it was unrealistic with some plausibility to it, at least, and there was no plausibility to that final jump, I'll tell you that. But yeah, it's a perfect dragon movie. It's a good dragon movie. One I highly recommend watching. If you're looking for a movie to watch tonight, look this up, rent it, watch it. And you know, it's just to me, it's one of my favorite movies. Actually, I don't know if I'm getting that message across properly. I really enjoy this movie. It's always been a loved movie of mine, and it might not be like this Shakespearean movie or anything like that, but just for a perfect blend of action, art, fantasy, and just a cool concept, a cool movie, it's definitely a really up there. Just to me, this is one that it should be in your collection. It's one that is you know, the collection isn't complete without it, kind of a thing. Again, it's just like you can put it on to actually be into it and enjoy it. You can put it on just if you're somebody that feels like watching some action. You can put it on if you're just trying to kill time, and you're not going to be completely disappointed. Like, I don't think you're going to hate this movie or anything, even somebody that's not into this kind of thing at all. I think it's a perfect... yeah, it's just a perfect movie to put on and watch. And there's rare movies that I do this to, but it's going to get two gradings. It's going to get two gradings, actually, from me. One for just, you know, if you're going to critique a film, like if a film's being turned in and you're going to critique it, and then one is my personal enjoyment. So for critiquing the film, I think I'm going to give it a B+, because, you know, it's for what it was meant to be, like a B movie, like not looking to be this Shakespearean thing, but just looking to be a good movie, just a B movie. It did that and also went beyond it. So I'm going to give it a B+. Perfect B movie, and even went above what a perfect B movie should be. So it gets a B+. But for my personal enjoyment of the movie, I'm actually going to give it an A. Because like I said, I just think it's kind of a perfect dragon movie, really, at the end of the day. And for somebody that loves that kind of thing like me, it's the perfect movie. Yeah, so it's rare that I do that, and I don't like doing that so much, but some movies call for that exception, and this is definitely one of them. And as for the cheese grating, well, I'm going to give this a mystery cheese. I'm going to give this... Imagine if somebody went to the store, and of course you're not going to be able to buy and find every single cheese in existence, but you gave somebody the challenge to go to the store to buy a bag full of any cheese, try and get all the cheese as close as you can to all the cheese that exists. And they came back with a bag full of cheese, and you were only going to have a little tiny slice of it, not even one to get a full hint of it, just a tiny slice of it. And it was basically all this going to be opened and replaced in the bag, and your challenge was to grab a piece, a tiny piece, and guess what kind of cheese that is. And you just get a little taste of cheese, and it's you know that there's some cheese there, and it's cheesy. It's a cheesy movie, but you don't quite know what it is. And you know, it's kind of a movie that if it's gonna be cheesy, it went all the way, and it made it so that, you know, from depending on who you are, everybody would probably give it a completely different cheese grading. So no matter who you are, there's a different cheese in the bag that you could choose from. But you also aren't probably going to get tons of it where it's overbearing. It's just a little tiny bit of cheese in there. That is how I envision the movie. Like, if there's going to be cheese, they brought the cheese in the best way that it could be done, and in a way that could be utilized for everybody. That's kind of strange, but whatever. Coming up with the cheese gratings is harder than you might think, actually, coming up with the different cheese for movies. But yeah, it's definitely got some cheese in there, but I'd say that just imagine if you gave somebody money and you said to get a whole bunch of cheese, and there was enough cheese for everybody, and you weren't to look at it. You were just to have a little piece of it, or at least a little piece of it at a time, and you just reached in and grabbed a tiny piece, and you had to guess what it was. Everybody would have a different opinion and also a different guess. So that's my review for Reign of Fire, everybody. It's one that I highly enjoy and highly recommend checking out. Hope you enjoyed the review. Please come back for more.